Recording in progress.
All right. So again, if you guys have anybody that needs to be on this call tonight, please have them join on. This is our crusade. For those of you guys that are new in the business, it's a great opportunity for you guys to take some notes, information that you're going to want to share with potential clients, new associates, anybody that really needs to understand why we do what we do. And also, so you have a better perspective to really carry in your heart just how important it is, the mission that we're all on. And I know I've been in this business now for 6 years, a little over 6 years. My name is Tiffany Brinkley. For those of you guys that don't know me, I am a marketing director here with World Financial Group, Pinnacle Elite, Impact Northwest. We are a business within a business, as many of you guys that have been around for a while are very well aware, which is really awesome because we're in business for ourselves, but not by ourselves. And that's really powerful because we have the opportunity to work as a team, but as well as individually to really achieve our goals. And our goals are really helping the community, supporting those needs. So I came into this business 6 years ago after, doing the corporate thing. Well, at that point in time, I should say I was doing the corporate thing for about 8 years before I'd come across the WFG opportunity. But like so many other people, was sold the illusion that, you go off and get an advanced degree, you're going to go off and get that high paid degree or high paid job. And, you've made it, right? The white picket fence, 2-story house, couple kids, all that type of thing, And so, after actually getting my first job and getting into the corporate world, I started realizing that was not really the truth. I started seeing people that had been working 30 and 40 years of their life who all of a sudden were being laid off with no warning. They weren't ready to retire yet, but that's what was going on. And on top of that, many of them that had saved up money, and most times it wasn't even adequate amount of money.
Вот сюда сгружали продукты, Ваня.
Please,
Вот здесь будет ресторан тоже.
Mute yourself, please, everybody. Okay, so anyways, so after I started becoming more aware of what was really going on and how money worked, I started realizing none of us have been taught what we really need to know. I have a master's degree in business, and yet I did not know the proper ways to start building wealth, the adequate ways to protect my family and to protect my assets. And nobody had showed me this. Matter of fact, a couple of years after starting my job in the corporate world, I sat down with a financial professional, and they, in so many words, let me know that I didn't have enough money for them to work with me. They taught me the rule of 72. But then, of course, I'm very analytical, and I had some more questions that they did not want to dive into. So that was kind of my experience. Didn't leave a very good taste in my mouth. And I knew that, this couldn't be the way that most people are being treated, or at least the experience that they were having for their first time working with a financial professional. So awesome enough for me. Somebody came around with this opportunity with World Financial Group. They didn't know that I had always had an interest in financial literacy as well as the financial industry. Of course, at that time I was in manufacturing, but the awesome thing is that they shared the opportunity with me, and it was right up my alley, something I had always been looking for, and here I am 6 years later. So I want you guys to be thinking about your story and why you're here with us. What made you excited about what you learned when, this company first came around and you started learning about what we do. So here we go. So what's really going on in the United States? It's kind of crazy, you guys, if you really truly understood what was going on out here. If I can get the slide to move. Hold on a second here. All right, here we go. Well, for one, you guys need to know that most Americans can't even retire. They tell us that 65 is the retirement age. I'm not sure who made that number up or why. How arbitrary was it? But 28% of the people out there over 55 have no retirement savings. Okay, so for those of you guys new in the business, it's going to be very easy for you to get out there, share with people what you're doing, and either they've already talked to somebody or they haven't. But I'll tell you, most of the people out there have never had a chance to talk to anybody. All right, the median retirement account balance in the US back in 2019 was only 65,000. And that was even a 2% increase from 2016. 58% of the people ages 45 to 54, and 55% of the people ages 55 to 64%, which of course is a portion of the baby boomers, have retirement accounts. Okay, so again, only half of the people 55 to 64 even have something to utilize to retire with. But I'll tell you, I know people that had to go back into the workforce within a couple of years of going into retirement, right? 32% of Americans out there have saved nothing at all, zero, okay? And just over 70% of Americans' retirement plans is literally to keep working. Somebody that's really near and dear to me, and I sat down with her a few years back, and she told me, she was like, you know, Tiffany, in thinking about it, I just literally hope that I die on the job. That's literally what she told me, because in her mind, if you die on the job, your life insurance will kick in, and at least that's something to pay for the family, because she couldn't get life insurance any other way. And that really broke my heart to hear that. So definitely talk to more people. You're going to really start seeing that a lot of folks will admit some things to you that is just going to be eye-opening. The average 401k balance, you guys, okay, you see these age groups here. So under 25 years old, there's actually some folks that have retirement accounts out there. Funny enough, my 17-year-old daughter has asked me, and she's been working for the last year, but even she is interested in an IRA. So, obviously there's some people out there that want to know how money works and they want to leverage and utilize these accounts out here. They just don't have a person to show them how to do it. Now, look at this. For those 65 and older, $200,000 is the average 401k balance. Okay. And I know the slide is a couple years old, but hey, 68,000 is the median. I need you guys to do some calculations here. Let's say somebody only lived 10 years in retirement, which I hope that is not the case for anybody ever, to work 30 and 40 years of your life to have 10 years of retirement. But in calculating that number, you start to realize, oh my gosh, people, if they're not talking to somebody, whoever's talking to them definitely aren't showing them the right way to do things, okay? But it's worse than that, all right? Now, 800,000 new widows were created back in 2017. 90% of those end up bankrupt, okay? More than 22% of Americans had less than 5,000 saved for retirement, and 15% of those had no retirement at all back in 2019, okay? So you could think about it. You're going into retirement, you're married, you're with your spouse, your partner, and boom, they pass away. So now you're taking care of their expenses that they left behind, and also those that they are no longer sharing with you. How devastating do you think that is for most people out there, right? And so it's going to be very, very important to make sure that people are adequately covered. So that way, if they do lose an income earning spouse or head of household person, there's a way to handle that. All right, you guys, only 1 out of 4 have the right amount of life insurance. Okay. And I'm even surprised that that number is even that high, given the amount of people I've talked to and just who has insurance, who doesn't. And then when they tell you yes, you guys have been in the business any amount of time and have had a chance to go on field training appointments or even conducted appointments yourself if you're licensed. One of the things that we educate people on is DIME and also the multiplier factor of your income to really determine how much you should have in coverage. Now, 42% of Americans who own life insurance would consider using it to supplement their retirement income. Well, hey, we just talked about how much people have in their retirement accounts. How much do you really think that they would need if they were to utilize an account such as this? All right. So, crazy enough, just in this last year, 2020, about on the average, $65,000 or about $66,000 was what most US adults had in their personal savings, right? Okay, but just 39% of Americans, you guys, had enough cash to cover $1,000 emergency, okay? Now we're talking about life insurance. It's not just about when you die, but what about your income replacement strategy, right? What different products out there will allow you to use an account for that purpose? All right. So average Americans only make about $56,000 a year, you guys. Now look at this, salary by location. Okay, most of us are over here in the Northwest. As you see, the Northwest, one of the highest paying areas in the whole country, but also one of the most expensive places to live in the whole country. So again, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep at the end of the day, all right? Now in 2020, the average US household median income was only $78,000. And 30% of Americans reported decreased income due to COVID-19. So what does that really tell you? You start to get a picture of, if people already weren't really making enough to keep up with the cost of living, what do you think's happening now that people are making less potentially? And I've noticed personally, in many cases, the cost of things has begun to rise. So, how is this going to look in the upcoming years? Don't know. But I know since I've been here in the Pacific Northwest over the last, 15, 16 years, the cost of things has tripled and quadrupled in some cases. All right. Now, the student loan debt is about $1.6 trillion, probably closing in on $2 trillion, if not more than that, right? And in 2020, Americans are more burdened by student loan debt than ever, you guys. 2 out of 3 workers say that student loan debt impacts their retirement savings. 2 in 3 feel like they cannot adequately save for retirement because of something they did earlier in their life, many years ago. I mean, how crazy is that, right? Among the class of 2019, 69% of those college students took out student loan debts. Okay, and they graduated with an average debt of $30,000. Meanwhile, 14% of their parents took out an average of more than that in federal parents plus loans. Now, I know that I went on an appointment with our executive marketing director a couple years ago with a business owner who had admitted to us that he no longer had a retirement because he had spent all his money sending his daughter to college. He cashed all of it out, you guys. I mean, in just the last 10 years, so mind you, she was going to school over this last major increase in the market. And I'm sure from the money that he pulled out to send her to college, it could have quadrupled just in the last 10 years. So, that's devastating. It's very, very saddening to hear that he could have potentially had close to $1 million or at least $500,000 sitting in there waiting for him. Now, you've probably heard another scary statistics. Americans owe over 1.6 trillion in student loan debt, and spread out among 45 million borrowers, you guys, that's $587 billion more than the US total credit card debt. Isn't that nuts? 70% of people say that their non-mortgage debt has impacted their ability to save overall for retirement. So we really, really got to look at our debt and how we're utilizing debt, okay? Now, recently, over 40% of student loan borrowers aren't even making payments. Because again, if you're going to stop making payments, what are you likely to stop making payments on? But people forget the government is the largest holder of student loan debts. Now, do you think that the government's going to forgive that loan? So you can, stop paying on it all you want. But, you're likely to see how that's going to go down at the end of the day. So again, debt is killing folks, and it's really up to us. We can't get people out of debt, but we can definitely show them how to more adequately utilize their income, pay off their debt faster, and stay out of debt so that way they can save more. All right. So how are we really going to do this? All right. I know there's a lot of people all around us, and, just being in our little small office sometimes, and the office it's not so small. When you're in there with all the agents, you're realizing like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of us out here doing stuff. And you're thinking to yourself, wow, they've probably already talked to that person and that person and that person. But I'm telling you, you guys, we need over a 500,000 more life licensed agents just to keep up with the demand of what's going on. Okay. Only a quarter of Americans have some kind of written financial plan. Only a fourth. All right. 30% of Americans have a long-term financial plan. And of those folks, 70% of them say that their financial plan needs work. So if their financial plan needs work, who do you think they're trying to talk to? Who do you think they're likely to be open to talking to? All right. 58% of those folks say that they feel comfortable creating a personal budget. And again, we offer a complimentary financial needs analysis. That's something that a lot of other firms don't offer for free. Many times clients don't even want to sit down with us until they understand that we are a complimentary service, because other financial professionals have told them that to design a plan for them, they're going to charge them a couple $100, a couple $1,000, just depends on the firm. We do all of this complimentary. But then again, in order for you to provide adequate value for your clients, you need to be coming to trainings like this. You should be reading, the Wall Street Journal, Barron's, Market Watch, maybe Yahoo Finance. There's all kinds of different resources out there to keep you in the know. So when you're talking to clients, they actually feel like you know what you're talking about, because, oh, she or he just mentioned something that I heard or saw or had a conversation about recently. Not like, everything they're talking about was 10, 20 years ago, right? So make sure that you guys are staying up on recent information, because it's really going to solidify why we are a part of this crusade and why you're a part of all of this with us. Okay, very, very important. All right, so 8 out of 10 Americans would change jobs if they ran into something better. Now, what does that tell you, you guys? Just like you were here because you heard and understood how awesome this opportunity is with World Financial Group, and being in business for yourself, but not by yourself, and building something that you and your family can own for generations, right? Now, out of those 8 out of 10 people, how many of those do you think would be interested in checking out what you do and perhaps even working with you? 63% of Americans, you guys, had personal finances affected by the pandemic. 63%. So again, you get out into the community and you start talking to folks, you're going to have some success. You're going to have some no's, because guess what? A lot of people are hurting right now and they're negative minded, and they're going to just shut down an opportunity before they understand what it is. So you're going to have to understand that. But again, there's a lot of people that need to talk to you. Almost half of Americans have missed out on 1 or more rent and mortgage payments since last year. All right. And 30% of them have reported decreased income due to the coronavirus. So, it's been pretty crazy. Everybody's been affected for the most part. And unfortunately, a large percentage of folks were tremendously affected by, actually losing income. So remember, there's always opportunity to help show people how to replace that. Now, what's really going on with the average person out there? The American family out there is about $20,000 in debt, you guys. They have about $4,000 in the bank if they're lucky. No one has a retirement account in 50% of the households out there, okay? Their house is worth about $160,000, but the family still owes $95,000 of it to the bank. So they only have about 50% or less equity in the homes that they live in. And actually, of course, this slide was made probably a couple years ago before this massive increase in the fighting over, buying houses. So right now, people are literally buying houses that are worth maybe $300,000, and they're spending $550,000 on them. Okay, so again, overpaying for an asset, that's a really serious thing right there. And they're only making $43,000 a year, but can't manage to even pay off a $2,200 credit card balance. Okay, don't have mutual funds, no stocks, no bonds. And it's just crazy. 4 in 5 Americans lack retirement planning basics on how to be financially secure. And we've got the cure for that problem. We're financial doctors, you guys. Financial doctors that can easily provide the cure. Now, some people may not drink it or take the prescription, but you have it. Okay? Half of the people out there don't even know how much they'll need to retire. They have no clue what their financial independence number is. You should ask people that. What's your FIN number? What do you mean? What's my FIN number? What's a FIN number, right? That's how you can get a conversation started. So just remember, you have all kinds of tools and tips and tricks in your back pocket to start a conversation with people, okay? The financial industry is abandoning middle-class America. People, they've heard of the Merrill Lynch's, the Charles Schwab's, the, State Farms, the Edward Joneses, but when's the last time that they've heard from them? All right. 1/3 of retirees actually use a professional financial advisor. Okay, I just went on an appointment yesterday with one of my associates, a gentleman that has over $1 million to roll over, and no other financial advisor has ever talked to him. But all of a sudden now, a whole bunch of them are coming out of the woodwork because he's retired and somebody has his name on a list. Okay, so there's a lot of people out there that went into retirement never having a conversation with somebody and just has their money sitting here on the side, not knowing what to do with it. Okay. 24% of the millennials out there have demonstrated a basic financial literacy. A lot of the millennials are very, very curious and interested about how money works. But again, a lot of them are getting sucked into the non-traditional aspect of the industry, such as cryptos and things like that. So, nothing wrong with that per se, but of course, that's not what we're licensed to provide. We're licensed to provide education and protection. Okay, so we want to make sure that people have a better, well-rounded idea of how money works. Now, financial illiteracy. illiteracy, okay? That's costing us $415 billion each year, okay? Just in 2020 alone, 415 billion. And that's because of, hey, think about it. Illiteracy, what does that usually result in? People making bad mistakes, people living in poverty, crimes being committed, more people ending up in jail, all kinds of stuff. So, it's going to be just really important for you guys to make sure you're providing some perspective, some education, some literacy for folks. So that way they have a concepts in their minds that they can just make some better decisions on. Now, 90% of all life insurance policies have no long-term care. And this is really, really significant if you're living in Washington State, because as hopefully you know by now, Governor Inslee instituted a new law that will go into effect in 2022. It's basically a long-term care trust fund, something kind of like Social Security from the federal government's perspective, where it'll be paid through payroll tax, all right? And, I believe wholeheartedly that long-term care is a very, very important aspect of your overall financial plan. And people just need to understand what it is. 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will contract some form of cancer in their life. And hey, we know people that have had children that have had cancer. We know people that have had teenagers that have had cancer and may or may not have made it, people in their young and middle adulthood, and obviously in older age. So I'm just saying that to say, obviously, none of us are protected from it. There's been children born with cancer. You know what I mean? So the idea is why not put yourself in a position to protect yourself from something that so many people are affected by? There are over 800,000 stroke victims each year. Every 44 seconds, someone in the US has a heart attack. Okay? Now, about 70% of people over the age of 65 will require long-term care at some time in their life. And it's crazy. I know here in Washington State, they're saying that only one of them only 10% of those people can actually pay for it. All right. So that's why they're making it a requirement, a new law, a payroll tax that'll be starting next year. Definitely talk to everybody that's 18 years of age or older and is working at least 10 hours a week, because you'll have an opportunity to show them their options. And even if they are interested in seeing if they qualify to opt out of it, that'll also be an option for them. Okay. Most people are financially illiterate. And I just told you that it's costing us over $400 billion a year, just last year alone. Okay. And these are just easy money habits of the average American. These are money habits of the average American. They're not good though. Okay. Only 40% of US adults keep a budget and track their spending, you guys. Less than half of us. 46% of American families say they live paycheck to paycheck. Now I want you guys to start checking yourselves. How do you stack up against this list, or your family or your friends? 50% of Americans have less than 3 months worth of expenses saved. 27%, a fourth of us, you guys, have no savings at all. And though they believe in a college education for their children, only 1/3 of parents have a plan to pay for college expenses. All right. So, we really got to keep these things in mind when we're out in the community and start talking to ourselves in the way of what's actually going on, and not some of the fluff that sometimes ends up in our minds. People need us. Okay. People need you. Your community needs you. And if you don't talk to your community, one of two things is going to happen. Either somebody else is going to talk to them and you'll lose out on earning that business. And I'll tell you, I've been here for 6 years and that's happened to me multiple times. And of course, sometimes my friends will get mad at me if they didn't realize that I offered the same service because I didn't say anything. Or things happen and they're not covered, which is also something that's happened to me. Don't let that happen to your community. People need to know what's available to them, and they need to know that you're the one that can offer it. Okay. Now, only 4 states out of the 50 require financial education in high school. 43 states include personal finance concepts in their standards. 19 require that a high school course be offered, and only 6 of them require testing of personal finance concepts. This was back in 2014. Now, I know Washington State started having a conversation about making financial literacy more embedded and a part of the overall experience. I don't know where they're at in that right now, but I teach at the high school level, teach in the middle schools, teach, in the colleges and at the libraries. And I'm telling you, children and young adults definitely are curious for this information. So, definitely you guys, if you have an opportunity, teach classes and just share the information and get feedback. It's fun. All right, you guys, about roughly out of 78 million Americans, that's about half of American workers don't have access to employer-sponsored retirement plans, okay? And 90% of them say they don't even have a pension plan available. So if you don't have a pension and you're not used to saving up for yourself, what is there to rely on in retirement? Okay, so now you understand why so many people don't have a retirement plan. 2 out of 3 retirees say that their most recent employer didn't even help them transition into retirement. They're like, oh yeah, it's about time for you guys to, leave the company and enjoy the rest of your life. Thank you for being here. See you later. That's it. They told them to get a 401k plan and they never really showed them how it worked. I'm sitting down with people right now that didn't realize that their pension plan was a taxable strategy. So when they did their financial planning, they calculated 100% of that account coming back to them. So now they're realizing, oh no, I have to go to work part-time. All right. For those that are 65 years of age or older, the total annual expenditures has been an average about $43,000, which is interesting because the client that we saw the other day that's in retirement, that's about what he told us he'd need, about $40,000 a year, a little less than that. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. That ended up being about right. 42% of the people out there concerned, you guys, about outliving their retirement. I just came across an article the other day that said scientists have come to the conclusion that humans cannot live beyond 150 years old. And I had to laugh about that because I'm like, okay, so they just said that we can live to 150 years old. Okay, that's what I took from it. When most people's retirement plan isn't to live beyond the age of 75. Okay, if you really look at the numbers, their retirement plan isn't going to take them beyond the age of like 70 or 75. Can you imagine living double the lifetime that you planned for? Double it? Wow. It's pretty amazing and pretty profound when you really think about it, okay? 75% of the people over the age of 65 are going to need long-term care. And I know I just mentioned this, but we're going to literally make sure you guys understand how significant that is, okay? Now, these are some facts to help you determine your risk, okay? If you're a woman, for instance, your chance of needing long-term care is going to be about 79%. Fortunate for us, but unfortunate for us, we tend to outlive our partners, okay? So all that just means is that the income that they were helping to provide for your lifestyle may no longer be there, okay? Whatever else, whatever type of support that they provided that had a financial price tag to it is no longer there. So, the average couple is already shown to need about $285,000 for medical expenses in retirement. That's excluding long-term care. See, people forget there's short-term disability, there's long-term disability, there's your doctor's offices, there's, medications. You can break down medical in so many different ways. So when you talk to somebody about long-term care, I guarantee you, they're going to tell you, oh, I already have long-term care. But what they're actually telling you is that I have long-term disability. They don't know the difference. Okay. So, literally ask them, do you mean long-term, short-term disability, or do you mean long-term care? And like literally help them break down what it is or have them just get the documentation so you can confirm it for them. All right. 71% of Americans say that they are afraid that there will be no available Social Security funds when they retire. I've actually done the research, you guys. I'm 40 years old. When I was 35 and I was in the business at that time, I got a letter from Social Security that literally said that I was supposed to get $2,700 or something like that in retirement at the age of 67. Mind you, I was 35. So that's 32 years away from now at that point. So I go do some research in the Social Security website and I come across a report. It was like deep. I had a deep link in there quite a bit. It was a report that goes to the Senate and the Congress like once a year or something like that. And they were basically giving them a worst case, best case scenario of the solvency or how well funded is this account to make sure that everybody's paid out 100%, the solvency of the fund. They said worst case and best case scenario. Best case scenario at that time was 30 years. Mind you, my thing said I could get that money in 32 years. Okay. Worst case scenario, you guys, was 10 years. That was 5 years ago. Okay. So keep doing your research on how the bucket's doing. Of course, depending on how they've been investing it. I mean, the markets have been crazy. So the bucket may be way up there now. But again, as the markets move around and change, again, the solvency of that account can change again. The average life expectancy for a man turning age 65 in 2020 was 84 years old. Okay, 84 years old. So, when you guys are designing your clients' plans, you should always be asking them and learning a little bit more about their family health and longevity history, because that'll give you a pretty good idea about what your client can expect. And I usually even add another 10 years on top of that because of medical advancements and whatnot. Okay. All right. So current US inflation rates. Now, if you guys are ever in any of the product training, you'll understand why it's so important to understand inflation. We design financial strategies for our clients using today's dollars, but we forget we're trying to help them plan out what the potential buying power of those plans will be 20, 30, and even 40 or more years out. So understanding inflation just means how much less is their buying power year after year. And we know that inflation in this country is anywhere between about 2.5% to about 4%. I think for this year, it was estimated to be 3.2%. Please go do your research on that. But there's $6 trillion sitting in accounts earning less than 1%, you guys. All right. So if you're earning less than 1% in an account in an environment where the inflation rate is 2 and 3 and 4 times higher than that, that means year after year, you're losing that much in your buying power as well. How is that serving the needs of our community? And how is that allowing people to truly leverage and harness the opportunity to build wealth for themselves? All right. And again, that's what we are doing in the community, is just providing more awareness and opportunity for people that are open to it. But you got to let people know what's going on. The average person changes jobs 8 times by the time they're 40. I know that was me. I mean, I came into WFG when I was 35 years old or so. And I know I was more than ready to make a change for an opportunity. There's a whole lot of other people out there that are in that same position. In 2020, the average US household median income was only $78,000. And we talked about that earlier. So again, how many people could utilize an opportunity, even part-time, to make another $10 or $20 or $30,000 in any given year? And for people that are trying to make an even bigger change, you can show them how to make $100,000 to $200,000 in the next 12 to 18 months through this opportunity. So again, are they trying to have a better lifestyle, or are they even just trying to keep up with the one that they got? It's hard out here for people. Okay. The founder of the 401k has admitted that the plan doesn't even work for retirement. Ted Benna, I want you guys to go do your research. You have to let people know, hey, read. It's an article that Entrepreneur Magazine or entrepreneur.com released a few years ago called The 13 Reasons Your 401k is Your Riskiest Investment. Okay, please go read that. He's the father of the 401k. And in the late 1970s, and Robert York can attest to this, back when the tax rate was 70% for those making over $100,000, that was in the 70s. Now I'm 40, so I wasn't even alive during that time. But I trust Robert, and I trust all the articles out there about what was going on in the tax world. And that was one of the reasons the 401k was identified as a tax loophole. It was never meant to be a retirement plan in the first place. All right. Matter of fact, Ted Benna says, if I were to start over from scratch today with what we know, I'd blow up the existing structure and start all over. Okay. We really believe that the tax rates of the 70s will be back. Taxes, just like the economy, just like interest rates and everything else, cyclical. Okay. Now, 40% of Americans have saved less than $300. So what do you think is going to look like when the tax rate starts eating up the little bit amount of money that we already couldn't save in the first place? Right? This is some serious stuff. The average person, this is number 19, saves only 2% of their monthly income. Now that's more than half of Gen Xers they have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. Okay. And again, 30% of Americans have a long-term financial plan. Okay. But 70% of them say that it needs work. Now, what would you say? If the average person only saves 2% of their monthly income, I believe that more than 70% of Americans need work on their financial plan. Who's going to be out there to help them? Right now, 78 million baby boomers are retiring all at the same time, you guys. $63 trillion switching hands, if not more. Because again, the marketplace in the last few years since this slide was initially created has added so much more money to the pots of so many of these folks. And actually today we learned that more than ever in our history, as of this last year, more people are putting money into more conservative type accounts, like not their 401k, excuse me, like their CDs and their savings accounts, things like that. So you're licensed, hopefully, to be able to provide the service where we can show people how to have a higher rate of return, get more guarantees, have more protections, right? Remove themselves from the risk of the marketplace and unknown taxations. That's what we do. We're financial strategists. Oh, great. You have a financial advisor? That's excellent because we complement what a financial advisor does. Did your financial advisor show you that you could have a tax-free retirement? Did they show you how to make sure that your assets are protected if the market were to correct 10 or 15 or 20%? These are questions that you should be asking and ways that you should be introducing yourself to people and letting them know you're not a threat to any other financial person that they've been talking to. Okay? 78 million retiring baby boomers. And with immigration, that's over 100 million people. Okay? You got to really understand what's going on out here. The opportunity is immense for those of us that just get out there and talk to people. Okay? You can be crazy with it and talk to everybody. What we say, have a degas attitude. I'll let you talk to your training partner or your business coach and they can help you understand what that means. Or, you can keep it word of mouth. Business is going to look a whole lot different for you if you only do it that way. But there's so many different ways to do this business. There's so many different ways to let people know what we're able to offer them and how we do business and who all we represent. Because this company back here, you see this, Transamerica, been around for over 100 years. Highly credible company, very, very deep pockets, huge origins. The company that owns us is Aegon. And through that partnership, say over here, WFG, that's what we're all a part of. Leverage it, okay? So that's all I have to share with you guys this evening. I'm very excited to be in business with all of you. This class is offered every other week in between. So next week will be orientation. If you have not yet been in orientation, that's going to be another part to onboarding you. So if you're new in the business, please come back and hear what we're going to share that evening. And if you'd like to help teach any of these classes, just keep coming back. We'd love for you guys to help make sure that everybody new coming into business has the same knowledge that you do. All right. Take advantage of every day, you guys. Look forward to seeing and talking to you another day. Take care. Good night.
Recording stopped.
Okay, so I will be starting my team meeting at 7 o'clock. I probably won't stop this. So if you're on my team,